Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Max.
And this is Movie Nostalgia, where we give you an honest review of the movies we've meddled with so mischievously over at Maybe Movies. And this time, we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The 1984 film, directed by Steven Spielberg, featuring the talents of Harrison Ford, Kate Capshaw, Ke Huy Quan, Philip Stone, Raishan Seth, and of course, Amrish Puri.
As the wonderfully villainous Molaram.
Bali mangti Kali Maa, Mukti degi Kali Maa.
Again, another childhood classic, if you like, for us.
Absolutely,
for our generation. I mean, yeah, so 84. So this, obviously, a great year for movies. Obviously this, Ghostbusters, 84 as well.
We're ready to believe you.
Well, you see, that's the interesting thing, because the first time I ever saw Raiders of the Lost Ark was in the month just before Ghostbusters came out. It was on TV for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
So that was my first experience of Indiana Jones. And then almost, 6 months later, he was back again with a new adventure. It was very convenient timing for me as a child.
Did you see it at the cinema? Or?
Oh, no. Didn't see this at the cinema. It was very much a video rental. Wait.
But we wouldn't have been able to, would we?
No, I don't think we did. I think this was a watch-on-video film.
I was thinking about this earlier, and I was reasonably sure that it was one of the first films we got to go see at the cinema, without being accompanied by parents.
Ah.
It was like a group of my friends, but then I thought, no, I can't have been, because I'd have been 10.
Right.
And I don't know if I was quite old enough for them to, because, my little brother's 3 years older, it would have been 13. But I don't think I did. And of course, this is, again, quite famously, the movie that gave us the PG-13 rating.
Yes, I do forget that often.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because Spielberg wasn't happy with it. He thought it was too dark for kids, especially for young kids. And so he called up one of his friends who worked in the American equivalent of the Board of Classification and suggested maybe we could bring in something like a PG-14 or a PG-13.
You see, that's so weird, because, considering what we were talking about earlier on, this is easily the most child-friendly episode of the Indiana Jones series.
It's also the darkest, though, as well. Again, as we were saying, tonally, it's a bit of a strange... I don't know that it's the darkest. I don't necessarily agree. It's got some dark tones, especially for a child. I remember being horrified by the way the children were treated when I watched it as a child. But growing up a little bit, you still appreciate that, but it doesn't have the severity that it once did, because you're no longer a child yourself. I still feel like the horror of the final scene of Raiders, Caps, Temple of Doom. I mean, of course, people, you're all welcome to disagree with me. It's entirely up to you, of course, but that's my take on things. Yeah, I think it's the most child-friendly one. I don't know if I agree with that, simply because, yes, the ending of Raiders is... it is a big set piece, and it's because there's quite a horrible moment because of the ghosts.
Mm.
But then what happens afterwards, essentially, when you look at it, and because, as they should be, Nazis are painted as the bad guys, it's divine retribution. So I don't see it as being as horrible as Indy finding a necklace made out of people's fingers, or basically flayed human skins decorating the Temple of Doom.
Right, you see, this is an interesting point.
I think there's a lot darker tones in this.
Because on the face of things, you're right. Except after, what was I was 10, 11? So after 41 years, I finally noticed the skins hanging in the hallway. I finally noticed the necklace of fingers. I didn't notice them as a child, and I certainly didn't notice them as a young adult.
It's curious, because it was conceived and designed to be darker than Raiders. Interviews with Lucas, he said, it was designed to be their empire for Raiders.
I just can't agree. It's too child friendly.
There is you
talk about the ending as if it's hopeful for Raiders. It's not. Everybody loses. Everybody loses, including Indy.
If you're talking about that in dark tones in that way, then yeah, fair enough. But if you're talking about in terms of the actual...
No, that is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ending. The ending is not hopeful in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
You're talking about the very end of the film, not the climax of
Everybody is freed, everybody gets away, nobody dies.
In this, yes.
In Temple of Doom.
Oh, I agree that certainly the ending
Whereas everybody dies in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It's very...
and several people die in The Last Crusade.
There is a lot more in terms of this, especially with the ending. It's studio friendly. I can see that, yeah. Like the ending bit as well, because if you stuck with the general tone of Indiana Jones, when they came back to the village, they would have still been in the drab clothing, there would have been signs of growth, whereas they come back...
And everything's fine.
Yeah, they're all wearing bright colours.
Exactly, that's my point. Yeah. That is exactly my point. I must admit,
I never really... for me, I think...
as dark as the film gets in the middle, at the end, everybody's happy and everybody lives.
I don't think... I think normally by that point I've kind of switched off. I never noticed it before. The action bits are all done. The villain's been defeated. The end is just the summary and my brain's already off somewhere else. Because I didn't notice that until the last couple of watches. That it's like, oh yeah, no, that's very clearly studio have gone, we have to have all of the bright colours out. And there's greenery everywhere. It's almost,
Again,
it's too literal.
As what I was saying, it's child-friendly. There is peril, but everything is resolved by the end. Everybody lives happily ever after. Everybody gets what they want. Except for the bad guys, of course, who fall to an ignominious but not depicted doom down amongst the crocodiles.
Oh, yeah, no. Having people fall to their doom is a big Hollywood thing, because fall from grace.
Yeah, but there's no splat, there's no chomping of crocodiles on limbs or anything like that. He just falls. And he's gone.
Coming back to what I was originally saying, I'm still not 100% sure when I saw this. I thought I saw it at the cinema, but I think it was probably home rental.
I think it was the same for me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We got there in the end. But yeah, so this is the second instalment in the Indiana Jones franchise, which, again, it was the first couple of times until I noticed that this is actually technically a prequel. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
And the reason
why... It makes nonsense of the first film in several places.
And the reason why, apparently, that it is a prequel is really dumb, because Lucas didn't want to use Nazis again as an antagonist. And while I know if you're going to be doing it as a sequential film, they become more ubiquitous as you go later into the 30s. But we're talking about the other side of the world here. We're talking about in India.
Yes.
Which is always going to be, if you wanted to have an antagonist, you could have put the remnants of the British Empire.
Yes, indeed. There were a lot of options available, and they went with the lowest common denominator.
Which is a shame, because, as you say, it doesn't work. It changes the context, as you were saying quite rightly earlier, of Indy's journey in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, because in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he professes to be... He doesn't have faith. He doesn't believe in hocus pocus and gods and mysteries and demons until the end of the film. And then we see in this film that not a year ago, he engaged in several acts of faith in recovering these chakra stones. It just doesn't make sense. It kind of makes nonsense of the series. As much as I enjoy it, it's one of the reasons I kind of like... This is the bit about the film that I shrug and go, I can ignore that. Just because I enjoyed the film. But that's it. It's only because I enjoyed the film. It's not because I think the film has any redeeming qualities that actually excuse that.
See, honestly, I never looked that deeply into it. It never really bothered me that much. I've always really enjoyed it because it was something different. Because of the setting and things like that. I really keyed onto that. Because, I mean, again, having watched interviews with Spielberg and Lucas, they do say they didn't want to just remake Raiders.
No, I understand that. And that's why it was refreshing at the time. But it's one of those things that you look at with a mature lens and you go, you did take the lazy route. There were a number of options you had there where you could have had different bad guys and you went with the easy one. I mean, the thuggy cults, for those of you who don't know, did really exist, and it is the origin of the word thug. Beyond that, everything else is more or less made up.
Pretty much.
In the film.
Pretty much.
And it's a very simplistic bad guy. I mean, like I say, as a child, I'd never experienced that culture. I knew nothing about it, and it was really dreadfully exciting. As an adult, it pales a little because you realise not just that there is more to the culture that they're referring to, but that they have a deeper mythology and culture of myths and legends and things that could have been delved into, which I find a little bit disappointing. But that's adult me. Adult me. Child me goes, yay, Indy, let's go!
Yeah.
Short Round, he's like me.
That's one of the things I've come to appreciate more as an adult. I mean, I think I was, at the time when it came out, there was still that bit of, oh, great, yeah, you got to have a kid in it. You know, like you're trying to sell it to the kid audience. Even as a child, I kind of rallied against that. I didn't buy into that. I always felt like it was pandering.
All right. I mean, I did get to that point, but it took me a little bit later. I was like 12 or 13 before I got to that point.
But now, again, looking back at it with adult lens, as you like, it's a shame that they didn't keep Ki Shu Kwan, you know, as a character in the franchise, because he would have been the best replacement for Indy.
Oh, totally. I mean, as a potential
style.
replacement, for example, for Mutt.
Exactly.
In Crystal Skull. Although, I mean, I'd possibly even go a step further and have him be the major protagonist of Dial of Destiny. If that's what you're going to do, if you're really going to hand off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's a sense of history and relationship to their characters in Temple of Doom, but there's this tenderness that he doesn't express often, certainly with people who aren't women.
Exactly.
And he does it with Short Round. The idea that they have this close relationship and they're both enthused by the same things. Mm-hmm. This is fun, this is exciting, says Short Round several times.
Yeah. Interesting enough, Ki Shu Kwan, he's the second example of this that I've heard of about movies where he never actually auditioned.
Oh, right.
And again, it's really interesting because both cases are almost identical. There's two different films where the child actor from the film has gone along because one of their siblings is auditioning and they're there for moral support.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
All right.
And they spotted him and went, well, who's he? Okay, well, let's try him. Because it's this and the kid from Time Bandits.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't there to audition until it was his brother.
Oh, well, my goodness. You see, I didn't know that. So am I right in thinking that Ki Shu Kwan went literally straight from this to the Goonies?
Must have done.
Like,
that was 85, wasn't it, Goonies?
No, 84.
It was 84 as well.
I mean, literally, he must have walked off of one set and onto another.
Yeah, because they did say introducing, so this is his first film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. But yes, I still think that he should have really, brought him back as an adult. He's already got his own style, his own look. You replace like Indy's brawling with his martial arts.
Absolutely.
He's got the cap instead of the fedora. He's got his own little signature things that would have still felt like a natural progression for that
natural legacy for the franchise.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Bit rambling on this one, but never mind. Yes, so this is as I said, Temple of Doom, the second installment, or the prequel installment of the Indy franchise, which sees Indy and a singer by the name of Willie Scott and his friend Short Round washed up in India and sent on a mission to recover the three Shankara, or one of the three Shankara stones is being held at the infamous Pankot Palace. Apparently all of the characters, all the principal characters, the three principals, are all named after people's pets.
Really?
Indiana was famously named after George Lucas's dog.
What, named after the dog?
That's where the joke comes from.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Spielberg had a dog called Willie, which is kind of hilarious considering that years later he actually married Kate Capshaw.
Not that much later, actually.
Make of that what you will. And one of the screenwriters, I can't remember his name, sorry, had a dog called Short or Short Round.
Keith Marshall?
No, not Frank Marshall.
No, Frank Marshall, sorry.
No, it wasn't Frank Marshall. There's somebody will give
I was going to say, the name... George Lucas and Frank Marshall are the only ones that are.
I think they wrote I think they did
cover.
the story, but I think it was the script writer.
Ah, right, okay. I can't see that on here.
I think there were a couple. They're husband and wife, I think. They wrote it as a team, and they were really excited about doing it because they knew India very well.
Oh, right.
They spent a lot of time in India and stuff like that.
So there you go. There's a thing to learn. Yeah.
You've probably seen it. It's been repeated hundreds and hundreds of times. It was a joy to do it on the show, mostly because I can't remember. There was a reason why we picked this one over Raiders. I think it was a better fit for Flash. I think it was because they both get to where they were going because of a plane crash.
That was it. Yes, that was it. It was the plane crash. That was the thing.
Which again, there's a couple of things with this film. The plane crash bit with the raft, and the minecart sequences. There was stuff that was originally supposed to be in Raiders.
Oh.
Yeah, they seem to have a thing about this. Yeah, it's just there was just so much going on with Raiders, and then they went a slightly different direction, so they shelved those ideas.
Okay.
And then when they came back to do this, they thought, well, we'll dig them out.
We'll do it now. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
This again, a bit of a deep dive here. I found out so before or while they were working on this, Chris Columbus came to them with a script for Indy, which would have seen him in Africa fighting a monkey prince or something. And they rejected it because apparently, it doesn't go into details when I read the thing. It just says that there was a lot of things about it that they considered a bit bought too much into certain African stereotypes.
Right, okay.
But they kept the tank sequence from Chris Columbus's script and put it in The Last Crusade.
Well, that's a really good sequence.
Yes.
So a win there.
Yeah, definitely. I've always really enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. As you say, there are problems, but I think because it was when I first saw it as a kid, there's always going to be that nostalgia value that's going to kind of, as you say, I can go, okay.
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing. I have these criticisms, but that doesn't change my opinion of the film at all.
Yeah, and this one is one of those ones that did really, really well. It was $28 million to make and took 331.1 worldwide.
That's some serious cheese.
Yes, absolutely. Xadrum is more than just curious content on YouTube. We're also a small publishing house with books covering a range of genres from 1940s pulp adventure to children's novels and even a touch of the macabre for those who like their literature on the dark side. Our titles are available in both paperback and ebook formats. Ebooks are available on Amazon, but physical copies can only be bought exclusively through our website at xadrum.com. Jeff's got enough cash as it is, so why not help us little guys grow and thrive? Links can be found in our banner and in the description to all of our videos, and we look forward to helping you indulge your itch for escapism. I'm going to go with the 1.5.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the 1.5. It is brilliant, but again, as you say, there are certain things when you look back at it at our point in life. It's going to be 1.5 because I can't convincingly do 1 3/4.
That's fair enough. For me, it's going to be, despite everything I've said, the full 2 thumbs up. As much as this is my least favourite of the original trilogy, it is still a part of the original trilogy. And for that reason alone, it's an absolute freaking classic that you should watch again, and introduce your entire family to.
Agreed. Did you know, sorry, one other thing before I forget, that the first fight sequence in Palace when the guy's trying to strangle it, Harrison Ford did his back, ended up with a herniated disc.
How many things that happen in these movies are because Harrison Ford has injured himself?
It was at the time he was in a really, really good shape. They'd actually got him to bulk up for the role.
Yeah, but you know the whole thing about shooting the guy with the sword is because he was sick.
Yeah,
yeah.
Struggled on for for about a week or so with the shoot, and got to the point where he literally couldn't move, and they had to fly him back to the States to have some kind of what was at the time some experimental surgery on his back to fix.
Gosh.
And thankfully it worked, but he was out for weeks. They had to go and do second unit stuff while they were waiting for him to come back. All of the fight with Pat Roach, that's not him, that's all, they shot it all with his stunt double, and when he came back, just did some close-ups.
You can't tell, I'll be honest.
You can't. And then, once they built the rope bridge, because even Spielberg was like, I don't like heights, I'm not going anywhere near that. He'd not long come back after the surgery, and they'd been given a clean bill of health. First thing that Harrison Ford did, ran across the fucking thing from one end to the other. And that was over like a 40-foot, however the gorge was.
I've always known that the man has an interesting attitude towards safety, but that's... well, there you go, folks. A thing you didn't know.
Check out, it's on the bonus features, though. They've actually got a clip of it, so you can see him doing it, so you know that you did do it. Anyway, I need to borrow your car.
Why?
It's for some very important clown business. Look after yourselves and one another, and we'll see you next time.
As always, guys, DTFN.